Well, hello there. You're watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. So, time to see then what is making the headlines with the political journalist Zoe Grunewald and the Sun's political editor Jack Elsom. Welcome to both of you. Great to see you with us from now until just before midnight. So, let's see what's making the lead then of the newspapers, starting with the Financial Times, which leads with Donald Trump proposing US security guarantees and a trilateral summit with Putin and Zelensky to help end the war in Ukraine. The I2 leading on Trump pledging US support for Ukraine, proposing a deal with Putin during a warmer White House meeting with President Zelensky. The Guardian also focusing on President Zelensky and European allies, pressing Donald Trump to back security guarantees for Ukraine. And the Daily Express says Trump vows the US will back any Ukraine peace deal and won't rule out sending troops. The Daily Mail reports President Zelensky survived a tense Oval Office rematch with Trump, avoiding the drama of their last meeting during high-stakes Ukraine talks. Well, Zelensky and Trump bury the hatchet, according to the Daily Telegraph, as Donald Trump confirms he would provide military support to Ukraine in the event of a ceasefire. The Sun says Zelensky was suited, not booted, as he won US security guarantees and a promise of peace talks from Trump. A couple of the papers have gone with other stories. The Metro, for example, highlighting a warning over 5,000 fake UK online pharmacies selling dangerous counterfeit drugs and stealing customer data. And the Daily Star reports a big cat has been spotted near King Charles's Highgrove home. So let us bring in Jack and Zoe, then welcome and great to see you. A big night, as predicted by Donald Trump in the White House. Just hearing actually from the Ukrainian president's spokesperson in a message again to journalists via WhatsApp that after a break talks have resumed in the Oval Office in a leaders-only format. So that still is underway. The White House also confirming that the East Room meeting where we saw them earlier with European leaders has concluded. So presumably that means that part of Donald Trump's cabinet have left the room and the leaders only now in the Oval Office, which is a fairly small room and wouldn't necessarily have anyone in. But anyway, where are we at?
Yeah, and you never know. You never know when talks drag on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think in this case, obviously, Zelensky has not been booted out like he was 6 months ago in that disastrous shouting match in the Oval Office, and I think that he will be pretty buoyed tonight. One, that the trip has clearly paid off. The European allies have rallied round him. Donald Trump has been very polite to him, but also now this guarantee of US security assurances in the event of a peace deal are what Zelensky wanted, and I think that that will lift his spirits. It definitely strengthens hands in negotiations, although I do fear that Trump is looking to get this done pretty quickly. And the sort of dog that didn't bark in these discussions today seemed to be territory, and territory is going to be at the centre of it. You know, Mark Stone, very interesting just then, said that obviously this idea of land swaps isn't really land swaps at all because Ukraine doesn't have any Russian land. It will be essentially what Putin has demanded, which is freeze it along current lines, take most of the Donbass and then give Ukraine little bits of pockets which Russia currently controls. And you do almost foresee a situation in which President Zelensky could be bounced into accepting a deal which is very unpalatable for him and his people, and I hope that doesn't happen.
Yes, it did have Russian land, didn't it? That push into Kursk, and it was the North Koreans who liberated Kursk for the Russians. And in fact, actually, at the last week, I think it was, President Putin called the North Korean leader to thank him for his help liberating Kursk, as he put it. But this headline here in the Telegraph, Zoe, US military to protect Ukraine, that is a game changer if it works out. We heard from Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, tonight at the White House saying this is a significant breakthrough.
It is, because if you think about where we were just months ago, where Donald Trump was basically suggesting that Europe and in Ukraine would be on their own with this, they didn't want anything to do with any kind of international war. They didn't think that Europe was pulling its weight. Even over the weekend, we saw him taking quite a kind of conciliatory, amicable tone with Vladimir Putin. So there was lots of concern that actually we might get a similar line of thought tonight. But yes, Trump has said the US will give Ukraine very good protection, very good security. There'll be a lot of help when it comes to security. It's going to be good. I mean, all, very Trump way of putting it, pretty repetitive and without actually saying a lot of substance. The key question is, does that mean boots on the ground? Does that mean weaponry? What does it look like in practice? How long would it last for? Is that enough that European leaders can continue as they are? Or will that be, with wanting those leaders to stump up more? So lots of unanswered questions there. But absolutely, he's put it out there on record now that the US is willing to support Ukraine.
Yes, the FT also with a similar headline. Trump floats the prospect of a US security guarantee in a bid to end the Ukraine war. Well, one wonders what has changed. Was it the presence of those European leaders? But on their online edition, they suggest that Ukraine will promise to buy $100 billion of American weapons financed by Europe, by us as taxpayers, to be fair, as part of a deal to obtain US guarantees for its security. So it's not something for nothing, is what they're saying.
Absolutely not.
Under the proposals, this is according to a document seen by the Financial Times, under the proposals, Kyiv and Washington would also strike a $50 billion deal to produce drones with Ukrainian companies that have pioneered the technology since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. So, is this being bought, I suppose, is my question.
And I don't think that's very surprising. I mean, we know that Trump as a president is very transactional. Think about when Ursula von der Leyen met him in Scotland trying to get those tariff deals down. It basically involved the European Union paying hundreds of billions of dollars in terms of American goods. We know that Trump has repeatedly said it in the last Oval Office meeting, said it in today's Oval Office meeting, that America is, as he put it, spent $300 billion or so in terms of Ukrainian support, and American taxpayers are paying for it. So whether that is the price to get American security guarantees over the line, I think probably that is something which Ukraine, advised by European leaders, think is possible. It's interesting, though, when Zelensky was asked today in the Oval Office, what do you need? He was asked by an American reporter, what do you need from the US? And he said everything. He says he needs weapons, he says he needs boots, he says he needs intelligence, he says he needs training. I think what's going to be the sticking point is obviously NATO, because Trump earlier on said that there is no path to fully fledged NATO membership. But this idea of NATO-style assurances, the sort of Article 5, an attack on one is an attack on them all, is something that Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, has said that could be a game changer in terms of Vladimir Putin allowing that. But how it actually works in practice, I think will remain to be seen with that one.
And there were two questions put to Donald Trump during that meeting in the Oval Office with Zelensky. One, is this the end of the line in terms of American help for Ukraine? Oh, I can't say that. And secondly, in terms of security guarantees, does that mean boots, American boots in Ukraine? And again, didn't really answer. Said, well, I hope to tell you later, which has led to, some headlines in the papers of wouldn't rule out Americans in there, despite the fact that the Russian foreign minister has tonight said no way to NATO troops in Ukrainian territory, whether they're badged differently as UK troops, for example, we'll wait and see. There's The Guardian too. Trump, no need for a ceasefire to secure Ukraine peace deal. A ceasefire was at the top of the list for Zelensky. It was raised by President Macron of France and by Chancellor Merz of Germany as well. But this seemed to disappear, didn't it, during the Alaska discussions with Putin? Oh, we don't need a ceasefire. And actually, I'm just reading that, Ukrainians are being told that Russian strategic bombers are in the air, with the potential of another attack tonight after more overnight last night.
This is the real problem, isn't it, with not having a ceasefire when continuing negotiations, because what you're going to see is what Putin is doing, which is bursts of attacks. We saw it yesterday, we're seeing it again today, to strengthen his hand in negotiations. He is trying to force a peace deal which is more favourable to the Russians than it is to the Ukrainians, and he is doing it by ramping up the attacks on Ukraine. And that is why often, you talk about ceasefire before you actually get into the nitty-gritty, so at least you can stop the fighting, pause, take the heat out of it, and then get a solution which both sides can agree with. But at the moment, that seems to not be on the table.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Trump has sort of changed his tune on this, because we know that just a few weeks ago he was chastising Putin quite publicly for continuing to attack the region, and he's been very irritable about that kind of continued action when he feels that he is trying to broker peace. I think he sees it as personally undermining of him and what he's trying to do. So, if there are continued attacks in Ukraine overnight and into the next day, this might be something that actually does kind of, in a way would strengthen Zelensky's hand when it comes to Trump's where Trump's loyalties fall. But absolutely, I think Jack is totally right. If you don't have a ceasefire, not only do those tensions continue to rise, but one country can continue its incursion into the other and continue kind of trying to grab power. And it very much undermines, all this diplomacy that is going on in the background.
Yes, and let's just take a look at the photo in the Eye, and then after that in the Sun as well. And in the Eye, this smiling, laughing picture, they were making a joke about the fact he was in a suit, and the journalist who asked that question last time in February was in the same suit, and everyone found that very amusing. The other bit that Trump found amusing was the fact that Ukraine couldn't have elections while they were at war, which seemed to tempt Trump for 2028. Almost he literally looked like he was mulling which country he could have a war with in order not to have an election.
He seemed to think, a war, that's a good idea. That can mean that I can just sort of put martial law in America. And listen, I think he was clearly being facetious. But in terms of the suit, I mean, that is something which Zelensky clearly has left nothing to chance this time. And even though I think the suit was a pretty trivial point last time, made by some pretty fawning journalists over in America, I think that clearly he is leaving nothing to chance. He knows that Trump almost likes people to come to the White House, show a lot of deference, kiss the ring, dress your best. And Zelensky obviously going down that tactic this time. And listen, it paid off. There was backslapping. It was much more jovial than last time. It couldn't have got much worse than last time, to be fair of it. And J.D. Vance didn't really stick his oar in this time at all. He'd stayed well out of it after stirring the pot last time. And so, I think that Zelensky will be pretty pleased with how it went today.
Yes, indeed. That's the front page of the Sun. We'll have plenty more on that as well, and the the nuance of today and the mood music when we come back.
Go ahead, back white jacket.
Deborah Haynes from Sky News. He called you Daddy earlier.
No, he did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy. Thank you.
Leicester is on its knees.
They've ripped the soul out of my factory and there's nothing left.
It is eerily quiet.
It's constantly on the brink of capacity.
There's overcrowding. It's not a new thing.
It's rough.
There's nothing to hide. Why aren't international journalists allowed in?
Are you worried about escalation?
Of course I'm worried about escalation, which is why my focus is on de-escalation.
The region, I think, is on edge because they are anticipating a retaliation.
Iran retaliates for the US attacks.
Founding principle of the alliance, that an attack on one is an attack on all.
Could Putin attack another NATO country within 5 years?
Right here in Somalia!
They thought IS was dead. Definitely not dead. It's alive and kicking.
It's the same thing happening again, only it's in Somalia and Africa.
Welcome to the Islamic State.
I want to find evidence of how big they are.
This is from Daesh.
I've seen what they've done in the past. This is like looking into the future, and it doesn't look good. Are you regretful about joining ISIS?
What might happen if Russia attacked the UK?
This is clearly an enormous show of force.
It is definitely out of the ordinary.
We ran a war game with former ministers back in the hot seat.
Ben Wallace.
Amber Rudd.
Jack Straw.
It's the kind of war game that's genuinely tested inside government.
The Russians are signalling that there may be an attack.
Russia knows our weaknesses, but do you? I'm Deborah Haynes. From Sky News and Tortoise, this is The War Game. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
I will always remember the atmosphere at the Shanghai protests. It was an electric mix of excitement, fear, and defiance, and a sense that history was being made.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos, analysis, up at 6%. Podcasts, watching us live.
Joins us live.
All in one place, and all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
I'm David Blevins, and I'm Sky's senior Ireland correspondent.
I've spent 30 years reporting the journey from conflict to peace. The end of the political stalemate, the start of a new chapter for Northern Ireland. Catholics and Protestants now facing the same threat.
If we both contract COVID-19, religion's nothing.
Sky News, the full story first.
Well, welcome back. You are watching the press preview, dominated, as you might imagine, at events in Washington, including The Times, which again has a similar headline to many of the newspapers. Trump offers very good Kyiv security guarantee. We will be involved, the paper says, pledges the US president after Zelensky hails a positive meeting at the White House. They've been meeting in the East Room. It appears that they're now back in the Oval Office with just the leaders. That's what we're hearing from the Ukrainian president's spokesperson. The Sun has the same photograph. Again, a suited, not booted, as the paper says, Zelensky, learning the lessons. So who's been advising him? Because not only was he there in a suit, he said, thank you straight away, Zoe. And he handed a letter, did he not, written by his wife to Melania Trump, thanking her for raising the plight of Ukrainian stolen children at that summit with President Putin.
Yeah, he's definitely gone in with a very conciliatory tone this time. I mean, obviously, we all know what happened last time they met, and I think having that kind of altercation again was just simply not on. Was simply not something that Zelensky would tolerate. So he's gone in. He's kissed the ring. He's bowed his head. He's worn a suit with his military jacket over the top.
Actually, Zoe, should we just listen to that moment? Because they did manage to raise a laugh. Let's have a listen.
President Zelensky, you look fabulous in that suit.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, you look good.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, looks good.
I said to the one that attacked you last time. See, now he's in. I remember that.
Yeah, I apologize to you. You look wonderful. No, my first question for you, President Zelensky.
In the same suit. You see, I changed. You are not.
Maybe you're.
I mean, it's a relief to everybody to see Trump laughing after that's, the horrendous awkwardness of late February.
Yeah, and it was horrible. I mean, I think Zelensky has done very well to kind of laugh it off now, especially when slightly prodded at again by that reporter. And I think actually his response was rather sharp, rather witty, and yes, put it all in good humour, but actually showed that Zelensky doesn't want to dwell on those details. He wants to move forward. He wants to do what he can to get his side of the peace deal heard and to get support. And of course, he's buoyed on. He's supported now by European leaders being there as well. So he probably feels a bit more like the cavalry's behind him.
You think it's all going swimmingly, and then you take a look at the Mirror, which literally says stalemate. Trump's security offer to Zelensky is rejected by Russia. We've already said they've said no NATO troops on the ground in Ukraine. And the Ukrainian leader, I'm ready for direct talks to end the conflict. We'll wait to see if that happens, because Putin doesn't even see Ukraine as a proper nation.
Yeah, and this really brings it all home. Like, despite all the bonhomie and the backslapping in the Oval Office today, clearly went better than last time. The overall picture is that there is still no deal. And it seems that we're going to come down to this trilateral, as it's termed in the trade, as it was termed by Donald Trump earlier today, between Trump, Zelensky and Putin. And that is where I think that the real haggling is going to begin. Today was a good primer for that, but I think that that's going to be where the real negotiations happen.
Jack, Zoe, thank you both very much indeed. We will see you for more in the 11. Right now, here's the weather.